If you're a fan of sports and you're watching sports news every day, it's extremely difficult to ignore there is a massive revolution of women's sports going on globally right now. And the summer has been all about the women, particularly in soccer and futsal. I think you have to look back to the outdoor women's Euro and how it captivated fans over the summer back in July, end of July, as they had 87,000 people attend the final between England and Germany at Wembley. Not only that, but 365 million people tuned in globally to watch that game. That is unprecedented. It's huge. It's outperforming men's games. That is a huge step forward in the sport for the female side of the game. At the beginning of July, the women's futsal Euro took place between Spain and Portugal. It was a rematch from 2 years ago that saw Spain come away as winners on penalties, and it was well attended as well, with thousands of people in attendance in their arena in Portugal. And it is a great step forward recovering from a COVID year and getting people back in front of the sport. So another great win for women's futsal and women's sports in general. But the real story that I want to cover today is the movement in the United States. We actually have to go back to November of 2021 when Westcliff University announced that they would have a men's and women's collegiate program for futsal. This went almost completely unnoticed at the time, and I cannot believe it did not get any more fanfare from the futsal community, but it recently resurfaced over the summer when Coach Ivan Todorovic did an interview with Andre Caro on Futsal Focus's podcast. In fact, we covered that as our first news story here on the channel, and he will be heading up not only the men's, but the women's program at the university. This year, the men will get kicked off, but as it pertains to this video, the Women's League is looking for players now and will be starting up next season. I don't think this is going to be the last we hear from University Futsal, and in particular Coach Ivan, as he is really laying the foundation for the young people in this country, both men and women, to take futsal to the next level in the United States. At the same time, over the summer in July, while most were watching the Euros, we had a local competition that took place in Michigan, the NFPL Summers Tournament. This tournament's typically for the men. It's a bit of a tune-up, keeping in touch over the summer, getting some touches on the ball. But this year we saw the women take the stage in what is quite possibly the worst kept secret of an announcement in sports history. And I'm so glad that it is. The NFPL has been teasing since the middle of last season a women's league, with exhibitions going on before the men's games and even some teasers through commentary on what is to come. And this tournament really shows a commitment and dedication to a women's league coming forward. And I believe even Columbus Futsal has leaked on their, I guess you can call it a leak. It's been, like I said, a pretty bad secret to keep for all the right reasons. But they've even announced officially on their page their quest to take on that title and win that first season of women's futsal in the NFPL. I believe we'll see more out of them as well this summer as we get closer to the NFPL season, which typically starts in the winter time, right before the turn of the calendar. And I'm sure that we'll see some official announcements from them, really sealing the deal later in the year. But even they can't help themselves and have been teasing the start of the league on their Twitter page and on their other social medias. But finally, and quite possibly the biggest story that has come out of the United States and women's futsal here in the last month or so, is a national team position that has recently opened up and been posted on USSF's official webpage. This will be an officially sanctioned United States women's futsal team through USSF, and this position is really exciting to me because it means we will be finally constructing a national team for the women of this country. I've been fortunate enough to watch some regional tournaments across the country, particularly in Ohio, where the Midwest comes to play through the Great Lakes region. And I can tell you that even just from this region, there is plenty of talent in the teenage years and above that would be able to fill a roster. I think that the women's national team could compete at a very high level, and I cannot wait to see how this shapes out. It does bring up a lot of questions, though. With a program that's already fairly underfunded compared to some other sports, and quite frankly, not well covered by the social media handle, I think that it's going to be curious to see how much attention the women's program is really able to draw. I hope they give it the full credit it deserves, but I also question how much budget they will have, considering that there's a really limited resources for our men's team as it is. Unless USSF decides to really put some money into futsal, I think they need to seriously consider the resources they're going to put towards this women's team. If they strain both programs, you start to wonder if they're just trying to make a statement politically and socially, or if they're really behind women's futsal. So I really hope that they do things right. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think? What do you think is best for women's futsal and women's sports here in the United States? Is it the foundation that's being built by Westcliff University, and do other colleges need to step up and take the lead and build that foundation for women that are coming up through youth academies and looking for a home in futsal as young adults? Does it need to be league structures through our semi-pro organizations across the country, giving those same women an opportunity during a traditional season? Or does it need to come from USSF themselves? Do they need to show a true commitment and put their money where their mouth is and start promoting futsal on both sides of the coin and growing the sport as a whole? Sound off in the comments below. Tell me what you think about it. And until next time, I hope you guys play with your soul.